Today, we're bringing you an epic Stephen King matchup. We got Christine versus Misery. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys and gals, and welcome to Good Real Hunting. It's your boy Brad, the Brett Man's over there, and welcome to Slash It Out. We got an epic matchup today. We got Christine going up against Misery, two Stephen King adaptations. Birdie boy, you picked this matchup. I know we got a lot of Stephen King stuff going on this month. Obviously, we're going to be leading up to the Summer Slash tournament at the end of June. That's going to be 32 of Stephen King's best movies. But Birdie, tell me why you picked this matchup with Christine versus Misery.
Honestly, I just thought they were two great Stephen King movies, and I feel like they just deserve a clash. I really honestly didn't have a particular reason of doing it, but after rewatching both of these movies, and it'll be one of our main talking points of this particular video, I absolutely am an evil scientist, and I found the main theme of why this is a perfect matchup, and I'm so excited. I'm even more excited to get into this to figure out what is the best between us and what the viewers that are watching this particular video, what they think which is better of Christine or Misery.
We're going to put these bad boys head to head. We're going to get through the details. We're going to break them down, and we're going to figure out which one we like better, Birdie boy. You got that tail of the tape for us here. Let's see what's going on here.
Okay, you ask and I shall deliver, man. This is our freaking tail of the tape, and Brad, as per usual, what do you think? Anything stand out with you?
No, I mean, the numbers all look good here. I like the fact that, Misery is rocking a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes by the critics, 90 by the fans. Obviously, Christine did well here as well. It's a little bit of a lower budget, $10 million for Christine, $20 million for Misery, estimated, of course. But still very solid for the most part, 71% for that movie as well.
My main thing is like Misery. Why does it really need a $20 million budget? Like how much were those gelatin feet, man?
Yeah, well, you got that. You got the snow. You're out there. You got to pay about 12 guys to get out there.
Oh, come on, man! I'm sure they went to the middle of nowhere and filmed during all that snow.
Like, you got busted ankles and shit, Birdie.
I busted guess, ankles. But man, that just tells me something like between the budgets between the two movies, that just gives me more appreciation for Christine, and I'm sure we'll go into that. So I will save my point of view on that here in a little bit. But yeah, other than that, Brad, I love all these numbers. I think they're just pretty much right at the right spot. So I have no like disagreements with this tail of the tape.
Let's go ahead and get into the stories for these movies, okay? Misery is about this famous actor. His name is Paul Sheldon, played by James Caan. Great character. R.I.P. Yeah, just recently passed away. Very sad. He writes all these Misery books. Like, they're like freaking like, I don't even know. I've never read a Misery book before other than the book Misery. But these
I think Misery's a female. So, yeah, just the adventures of a beautiful female named Misery. Which, why would you name a girl named Misery?
It's like fucking Twilight. It's like the Twilight of the 80s or the 90s, but there's no vampires. It's just popular. Anyways, he crashes out his car. He gets freaking saved by this chick, this freaking Kathy Bates person here. Annie Wilkes is her name, and she is his number one fan. She's infatuated with him. She loves him. She loves the Misery books. She can't wait. And so he's all broken up. His legs are broken and shit. He's stuck in bed, and she's like, "Oh no, we're not going to go to the hospital. We'll do that later." And he's like, she's trying to take care of him. Anyways, it takes a dark turn. She gets crazy. It gets weird from there. He's stuck in the snow. She's out there fucking, being crazy and shit, and he can't go anywhere. And we'll get into all that later. Obviously, Christine's about a fella in high school by the name of Arnie. He's kind of a nerdy kid. He gets himself a freaking nice car. He pays, he gets, it's a little on the cheaper end, but the car's kind of got a mind of its own. Arnie gets all crazy, gets obsessed with it, starts turning crazy. In short, that's our two stories. Very solid, Birdie. What do you think about these things in general? They're both similar, actually. I know you picked these movies. They have similar elements, which we'll get a little bit more into, but what do you think?
Well, first off, I want to make a clear indication that Arnie Cunningham is in no relation to Corey Cunningham. So I want to go ahead and shatter your hopes and dreams on that. Totally not related, and thank gosh for that. But anyways, as per these two movies, I think both of them have a great premise to them. But if you're going to kind of ask me which one has a more intriguing premise, come on, man. I got to go with the freaking killer killer car that's freaking killing everybody and having a relationship with between human and a car. That kind of reminds me of a certain other movie that Brad forced me to watch.
Oh, Tatane, dude, man, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, this
Oh
is the
my.
prequel.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and of all the months too. But anyways, I just think it's a more interesting premise of like, okay, a guy having too much of a relationship with this car. Pretty much it's the car and screw everybody else. I think that's to me a more interesting premise.
Yeah, I mean, they're both, both the stories are solid. I like Christine for the fact that, you get to see this kind of dive into madness from Arnie. He starts off like he's a decent dude in the beginning, but as the movie goes on, he begins to adapt the cars.
Nerd!
Yeah, he's a nerd, but he's a nice nerd. He's a cool guy. He definitely wouldn't get his ass whipped by a bunch of band people, that's for sure. But maybe he would. I don't know. We'll see. He begins to adapt with it from the car, though. The car is basically just like turning him into this fucking crazy person. He gets obsessed with the car. The car is like, basically changing him from every level, like, making him make weird decisions and stuff. I like that. That's cool. It's creepy, a little bit more supernatural. Yeah, the story in Misery we've seen a few times. I actually found it to be very similar to Cujo. You got a character that's stuck. They can't go anywhere. They got a bad guy out there that they can't do anything about. You kind of have those same little elements. I just found this story to be much more interesting than Cujo. Not that Cujo's bad. Cujo's great. We love Cujo around here. But Misery is, you replace the dog with a fucking psychopath. And instead of being stuck in a fucking hot car, you're just all fucking broken up there, bitch. You can no longer work. Except he could, because he's a writer. He doesn't need his legs. I think there's a little bit more story to Misery, though, on a deeper level. There's a lot of psychological, scary shit there. So I like the story in Misery probably a little bit more personally.
Yeah, and in terms of the story, you're absolutely right. There's more going on in Misery than there is in Christine, but I would definitely say that Christine still holds its own because I feel like a lot of again nerd kids can really relate to this movie and just showing you you could gain confidence and all that, but if you ain't careful, it could lead you down to a dark path. And I feel like Christine,
the path I couldn't follow.
Yeah, because of we're not getting into that right now. But so this is also good insight, like a good little hidden theme in there in Christine. But yeah, you're right, though. Misery definitely has more going on in terms of character development, character story, backstory, especially when we get to Annie Wilkes's backstory. Holy shit. So so I agree. Both of them tell really great stories, but if we're going to really go with the best story, it's Misery. But the more intriguing story, again, I gotta figure out what this killer car is all about.
So you're gonna go with Misery overall, or I'm sorry, Christine. You're gonna go with Christine.
Yeah, I think for most interesting. Yeah, I guess if we're going to go overall, technically, I got no choice but to say Misery because just my God, what they did with that story.
What I love about Misery over Christine is the fact that it's a little bit less like Christine's a little bit, obviously it's supernatural. It's a little less realistic. I think Misery is it's a realistic story. It's fucked up. You definitely wouldn't want to be there, but I mean, in theory, it could happen. And if it were to happen, I think I would rather, fucking just get ran down by that car any day of the week than fuck around with Annie Wilkes with broken legs. That's a miserable way to fucking spend a summer or winter or whatever, a winter and then a summer. Not a fan. But there's some good things there that happened, man. James Caan, he ended up writing the best book of his life there. Paul Sheldon did. And then he,
and then he burned it.
Yeah.
It's all burned there. Nobody can read it. I kind of allude to this earlier, but this is the main reason I picked this particular matchup, or realizing why this matchup works so great to me personally, and why this matchup does indeed work. And it's a certain little theme. It's called the theme of obsession, Brad. Just like us just getting obsessed with something, and it can really take you to a very dark place. Obsession is not a pretty sight at times.
That's true, man. They both really tackle this theme well. Misery is a little bit more of psychological kind of I'm going to fucking, I'm obsessed with you and I'm going to manipulate you to do whatever I want you to do kind of deal. Whereas, like I said, the storyline with Christine is a little bit more possessive. He gets the car. He's obsessed with his possession there. And that possession of the car changes it. And I think They both explore it well. I mean, I think in that regard, the movies are pretty similar. That's one big thing. Like they both tackle that dark side of obsession. Like
Mhm.
and Annie Wilkes is so obsessed with fucking Paul Sheldon and the Misery novels that she's fucking. I mean, I guess technically she didn't break his legs. I mean, well, she did, but after they were already broken. But short of that, she was like, she had him fucking shackled up in there, forcing him to write a new book. Because that's the thing, the new book came out while he was in her custody. The last Misery book, and she reads it, and she's so obsessed with it, she's excited, and she's all like, Paulie, this is the best book I've ever written,
Paul.
or read. Yeah, Paul. And then she reads the end and fucking Misery dies and she starts freaking out. And then she comes in there with the fucking, you never know what she's going to do. She's coming in there with a fucking charcoal grill and she's like burning shit, making him burn his own book. And then it forces him to create a new book that fits her needs better.
You make a good point about like how Kathy Bates is so obsessed with Paul Sheldon and his work of Misery, and like how you kind of use the word of that Amy is allowed to kind of like manipulate Paul Sheldon into her will, into her being like doing what she says. But I'm also going to allude that to the actual car Christine, because I feel like Christine actually plays the exact same role. Like Christine is the Annie Wilkes to Arnie's Paul Sheldon, but except that his legs are all broken up there, bitch. In fact, instead he turns into a major asshole because again, he's so obsessed with Christine in the car. But Christine also plays a good little role and like to shaping what Arnie is, and like turning into that dark side and to do what Christine wants to do, fix her all up, put the right parts in, grab that little notch at just the right spot with some pleasure and all that, put it in a 4-wheel drive. But no,
banana in the tailpipe.
Hey, no, that is a very mean joke. Like if the bullies would have done that to break up the car, man, that would not have been cool. But regardless, though, what man, I would just say that probably what does a better job with obsession, I will again have to go ahead and give it to Misery again, because that bitch Annie Wilkes is willing to even kill in order to get what she wants, and just for Misery to be okay. Hell, again, sledgehammer, ankles. Oh no, you're gonna do what I tell you to do. And then when the officer's about to break the case, she blows him away. So like definitely if that doesn't scream obsession, I don't know what else will.
And she's so like unpredictable with it too. Like, and it all comes down to we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because I think it's a good time to kind of start talking about the character. I agree. I think Misery probably tackles that a little bit better, because I think it's still very much there in Christine, but I think it's more of like, you don't know how much he's actually obsessed with the car versus how much the car is like, changing his mindset and making him like kind of go crazy and stuff. I feel like the car is the culprit there, and we'll kind of get into that with the characters, because these movies have two very distinct but also similar villains.
Mm-hmm.
You got Annie Wilkes in Misery, played by Kathy Bates, of course, masterfully, and won the Oscar for the role. First Oscar in a horror movie, maybe probably the only. I don't know.
Well deserved.
Yeah, which is crazy. You don't see a lot of Oscars come from horror movies. I'm glad she didn't get slept over like a lot of people have in recent years.
Toni Collette.
Yeah, you're kidding me, man. You're telling me. But then in Christine, you have the car Christine is the villain. They're both complex because they both do good things. Misery's like, taking care of Paul, in her own dark, twisted way. But sure, she like, for all intents and purposes, she saved his life. He would have died. And she's got that nurturing maternal side to her that you see from time to time. And then the car Christine, I mean, it comes in clutch, kicking a little bit of ass. You got these bullies that Arnie is having to face off against throughout the movie, and that's a big part of what propels him to kind of get obsessed with this car to begin with. The car's like, fucking him up and shit, like killing him. And there's times where you're like pulling for the damn car to smoke some bitches,
Mm-hmm.
It just goes a little bit too far over the top at the end, and that's why it gets crazy. But they both kind of have like they're both diverse, if you will. I know Misery's a fucking car, but it's got a mind of its own.
Yeah, definitely. And with Christine with the car being the car, that I would say what Christine does, kind of like you kind of alluded to what Annie Wilkes does for Paul, is just bring in a warming atmosphere at first, like just giving Paul that support, like, hey, I'm going to take good care of you. Don't you worry. I got your back. While Christine's the same way, because Christine gave kind of like that support to Arnie as well when Arnie was in a dark place. You know, things aren't good at home. He's getting bullied at school, can't hook down the girlfriend. Like, dude, that guy's life sucks. But once he gets Christine, Christine also provides that comforting and more welcoming atmosphere into Arnie because it gave Arnie purpose. So I feel like both Christine and Annie Wilkes do a great job of just like bring it, like kind of like reeling them in. And then once they really like hook, line, and sinker them, all hell breaks loose with these two crazy bitches, man. And then both Christine and Annie Wilkes release their dark side on them. But it's just also like, does Paul turn to the dark side? Does Arnie turn to the dark side? That's why I kind of like with both of these movies. Paul sticks to his morals, even though it's just like, love you, Paul. It's like, which is just, it always makes me chuckle every single time. The thing with Arnie, he actually, again, he's just a kid, so his mind is a little bit more easier to manipulate, and that we saw him really turn, man. Like, just, you know, talking back to his family, even mistreating his girl, which I would have not mistreated that girl. Like, she beautiful. And also his best friend, who also had freaking broken legs at one point, man. So freaking legs are being broken all over these two movies, man. But just for character work alone, again, I hate to keep going back to Misery, but Misery is just such a masterful film.
Yeah, so I mean, here's the thing, man. I think like I do like both of the villain, like, because like I said, they both have, you know, pros and cons. They really do. Christine looks cool, it's sexy, it's whatever. But Christine's almost like kind of like Chucky was in the remake. Like he's just trying to help, you know, he's just trying to make a friend, you know, the car. I guess it's a she, right? Her name's Christine.
I would consider it a she.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, she's just trying to they're both, you know, she's just trying to help. But she gets misunderstood. She starts, like I said, she crosses the line there at the end. Damn Annie, though, like I said a minute ago, she's so unpredictable. Anytime she comes in the room, when James is just stuck, he can't go anywhere. But every time Annie comes in the room, you as the viewer, you're sitting there like, what the fuck's she about to do now? Like I said, she's wheeling in barbecues. You know, is she going to make hot dogs for this guy, or is it going to take a sinister twist here? At one point, she comes in with a fucking sledgehammer and some blocks, and it's like, oh, well, she's just going to go fix the fucking door jam. It's kind of twisted out of, you know, context. But no, she's twisting his ankles up in one of the most brutal scenes that you'll ever see, especially in the 90s, which, by the way, the book scene of that is even crazier.
God, I love you. Which, again, just the perfect line to say after doing such a horrific act.
She comes in with like needles and shit. Like you never know. Like every time that door opens, you don't know if you're going to get the maternal Annie Wilkes. You don't know if you're going to get the depressed one that's like about to go fucking off herself, or you don't know if you're going to get the fucking crazy psychopath, like going to bust your ankles up version. Like you just don't know. And I love that about the character. I think it makes it very interesting. It's kind of like in The Exorcist. Every time you go in that room, you have no idea what fucking Reagan's going to be doing in there. I don't like opening that door ever. And I don't like when Annie Wilkes opens this door. She's got a total warped sense of reality too. James Caan's in there just trying to survive. And that's the thing I like about his character too, is he wants to get out. That's obviously his clue. That's what he wants to do, is escape. He wants to get out of the situation. But he also needs like what Annie's providing at this point. She's feeding him, she's giving medication, she's, you know, like shaving his ass and all this stuff like that. So there's an interesting dynamic there that I really like. So I have to go with it as well. Now, we didn't really mention Christine's side characters, but I don't think really any of them are that special in general. I think, you know, the friend's okay. The girlfriend's all right. They're not bad, but they don't like, you know, they just
don't hold a candle. And I would say this the same thing with Misery too. I don't think this, like, the side characters to me are better in Misery because they help with the story a lot more than Christine does. But like, I was just thinking, we just talked about like each movie has two prominent characters that you like your main focus is on.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I feel like just there's no beating Annie Wilkes and Paul Sheldon here in this category. All right, so what about direction overall? Two kind of different stories, but they're both, like I said, eerie Stephen King stories. We got Rob Reiner doing Misery and our boy John Carpenter doing Christine Birdie.
Yeah, and talk about two totally different like directors that only like work in their own pace. With Robbie Boy, he likes to bring the suspense into his films, especially with Misery, which to me that suspense is what really makes that film because you've been alluded to a lot in this video. When that door opens and when Annie comes into that room, we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen or which personality Annie Wilkes is going to bring that day, and that suspense really gets to the audience. It definitely got to me on first watch too. I was kind of like, oh, what's gonna freaking happen, dog? Like, oh my gosh. While freaking John Carpenter, man, he brings the score, he brings the mood and atmosphere, he brings the freaking soundtrack, dude. Which I'm gonna actually give all of this. Finally, I'm gonna give this to Christine. Finally, just because again the score is great and the visuals. My gosh, the visuals, dude. When Christine got lit on fire and she was freaking driving, like just to get that beautiful shot. That's pretty much obviously where Strangers Pray, and I got kind of like that was their nod was to Christine for that particular shot. But man, it's the effects, man, too. That's why I was alluding to with the tail of the tape, $10 million to recreate those effects when the car, after beating totally the shit, and then it just reforms itself to a brand new car. I recently got my car back with a little scratch. I kind of wish it could have done the Christine and fix itself. That would have been very, very helpful. But
did you pull the liar when you saw the scratch?
Yeah, right there. But no, dude, like again, just the effects, just wow, man. And $20 million, that just amazes me that it took 20 million to make Misery, where I felt like Misery could use 10 million and Christine can use the 20 million. But I get it. 83, 90, two different time periods, money, the value of money is going up. So I understand it all. But definitely I give more appreciation. I give the nod to Christine.
I'd concur with that. I agree with that because I think the story of Misery carries it. Like you don't really need that good of direction to make Misery a fantastic movie. Now, not to say that it wasn't well directed. It was. Robert Hunter did a great job, especially directing Annie Wilkes, Kathy Bates, and all that stuff. But that story's so good. Christine is a good story too. But again, I'm not as into the supernatural stuff as I am the more psychological, dark stuff that Misery brings us. So personally, like the story, I think Misery carries it a good bit. And again, like you said, the budget, everything you said with that is completely correct. Less of a story, less money to work with, $10 million, go out there and do your thing. And John Carpenter does what he does best with the low budget movies. Not that 10 million is really a low budget in 1983, but
more than Halloween. So, but yeah, I get
by
it.
far, yeah. But he goes out there and he fucking makes it work. He goes out there, he does practical effects, he does an epic fucking score that makes the movie awesome. And he makes it creepy at times. The performance is there to make it creepy. He makes it weird. It brings that eerie vibe that he does really well with everything that he does. Along with Stephen King, I think that's really a perfect. You got a Stephen King written story with John Carpenter directing it in the 80s, his fucking prime. That's epic. I'll take Johnny Boy Carpenter in Christine for this category as well.
Yeah, and another thing I want to bring up too, or just another aspect where I think that Christine does better than Misery is cinematography. Which pretty much the main thing cinematography wise for Misery, what works for it is the snow and just to create that atmosphere with the snow. But if I want to look up snow, I'll just look up this. But with the lighting that they use in Christine, especially when Arnie's in the car in the third act, and you get that blue face and all that with the lighting, with the colors and all that, like absolutely stunning. And there's something with Johnny Carpenter making his villains having a blue face or a blue shadow, if you know what I mean.
I've seen that a time or two.
Yeah, so I didn't want to forget that because cinematography wise, Christine absolutely dominates that category as well.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think Misery is it's a really well directed movie as well. Not to say that it's not, but John did. So I think the Christine story could have been really tacky, really weird, and really cheesy if not done by somebody like John Carpenter. He actually kind of made it creepy and unsettling and weird. Here's what I'm thinking, man. Would you rather eat eggs with Annie Wilkes in the morning for breakfast, or better yet, in the movie they have that dinner date with Annie Wilkes, or would you rather go on a movie date with Christine at the drive-in? That's the
Oh, are
question
you
I got to ask.
freaking kidding me? I'd
That's
go
the
with the freaking movie date, dude. Like in that freaking car, getting to show off with a beautiful girl.
but the
Actually,
candles,
you really have two beautiful women with you. You got freaking your actual girl, and you got freaking Christine the car, man.
but the candles.
Talk about freaking on the way home, the roadhead. It's like double the pleasure.
Oh, but what about the mashed potatoes though from Annie Wilkes though?
There's nothing sexy about mashed potatoes.
Art the Clown would disagree.
Yeah, that's psychopath, absolutely. But no, definitely give me Christine. What about you, dude?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna be in a weird situation, you might as well watch a movie. You know, you might as well watch a movie while you're at it. Plus, I don't
But there's
trust
good reels, so you don't have to. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, I mean, it depends on the movie too. If they're out there watching fucking, if they're out there watching fucking Jason Goes to Manhattan or whatever.
or One Eye Monster.
Oh God,
That was for
no!
you, Chad.
Fuck you, Chad. All right.
Who said that, rascal? All right, man. But let's freaking wrap this up in a nice little bow here, just squeezing it on there nice and tight, Brad. So I'm gonna have to ask you for closing thoughts, and how would you rate both of these movies?
Yeah, I think they're both solid. Like I said, they're good Stephen King adaptations. I'd put them both in the top half of them, I would say. Misery, to me, I'd probably give a 4.5. It's crazy to me because I think Misery is fantastic, but I think I spoiled myself by reading the book. And it's like when I watched the movie, it just wasn't quite as there. But fantastic adaptation. 4.5 out of 5. Christine, I'd probably go like a 3.75, like a 3.75. Again, it's just the story. I'm not as into that kind of story as I am for Misery. But it's still very solid. 3.75.
Oh man, dude, that's
And
still
Misery,
solid scores all around. Or do you have any interest in reading the Christine book eventually?
I do. Yeah, I'll definitely get to it for sure. And that could change things. Christine, I've only seen like twice too. So that's another thing that plays a fact into it. I liked it a lot more the second time than I did the first time. And I imagine that'll continue to trend that way.
Yeah, and I was the same way too with Christine. On second watch, I really enjoyed it a lot more. Again, taking these themes and all that, even the third time, I really, really enjoy it. So I actually will give Christine like really a 4.25 on the Letterboxd scale. I'll just bumped it up to the 4.5. But with Misery, though, man, dude, talk about one of the absolute great 90s movies that definitely deserves all the love in the world. An all-time classic, one of the best Stephen King interpreted stories turned into a movie of all time. So I'm going to give Misery really a 4.75. It's not a golden reel, so Letterboxd scale is a 4.5, but I definitely give it the 4.75. What did you all think about this particular matchup such out, Christine or Misery? Give us your thoughts about both of these movies. How do you like both of them? Is there one you enjoy more than the other? Or just to you, what is the better movie? Which one wins this matchup for you personally? Let us know in the comment section down below, and let's get that discussion rolling.
And if you want to help us find the good reels, you can do so by finding us at all of our socials down below and the description. Of course, stick around for our Stephen King tournament at the end of June, the Summer Slash tournament, 32 of the best Stephen King movies. We're going to find a winner in there somewhere.
On that note, I keep on hearing a car horn out in my driveway, so I got to allude to that. I do got a date I need to go on, and her name is Annie. So what's the coincidence of that?
Dude, make sure she feeds you shrimp. You know, I don't know why, but I feel like it would be good coming from her.
Okay, we're out here. I'll see you later.
Yeah.